Over the weekend, I watched Indiana Jones for the first time. Back in December, I tried to play the game that came out from Machine Games, The Great Circle, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I tried to play that, and there was something about it that seemed like I was missing context. Like I kind of was supposed to know the character, and maybe just the target audience of that game, it probably assumes that you do know something about Indiana Jones. So I kind of just put the game away, thinking that I would eventually just come back to it, but I'd have to watch at least one movie first. Probably the first one, which is the one I went with. I know that the second one kind of lines up really well with going into this game, but I didn't opt for that. Over the weekend, I had some free time. I saw it on a service somewhere, and I just said, hey, I'm going to watch this now. And I just sat through it. So it's 2025, and it's my first viewing of it. What did I think of it? It definitely feels like a movie from the 80s. There's something about the way that it's paced, about just how it's slower, and just how goofy it is. It's really campy and cheesy in a lot of moments that made me think that maybe back then this is just how movies were made. This is just the vibe that everything was going for. I thought it was funny that there was a lot of screams, like real I'm scared and surprised kind of screams. Very theatrical gags rather than like what we have now, which is way more tight, way more serious, and way more fast. A lot of it seemed like a goofy stage play, which I guess is what was expected out of that time. But a lot of the practical effects really hold up, I think. There's little other things you notice, like it sounds like all the voiceovers, it sounds like all the lines said in the movie are done through ADR, which maybe the audio technology wasn't that good, but I noticed it because I was wearing headphones and everything sounded like a very microphone recorded in a very central way. But I think overall it was really fun. What got me to watching Indiana Jones was I was just watching Shrinking, 2 seasons of Harrison Ford right in my face, which got me thinking about when I tried to play The Great Circle and then looped me back towards watching Indiana Jones because I'll see the young Harrison Ford that everybody knew from the 80s that now I'm guessing is a heartthrob along with Karen Allen. Karen Allen was beautiful in this movie. And as I was watching, I got like the retroactive crush on her as like an adult, like 40 years later. So I thought that was all really interesting. It was a really fun movie. It wasn't anything crazy serious. It was just a loud, big action movie, and I could see at the time this being like one of the biggest blockbuster movies. It was made by the people who did Star Wars and directed by Spielberg. Like it's the most wombo combo thing that you can have at that time, which shows. I've also taken a liking to really enjoy going to the Disney parks the last 2 years. So I figured there might be something in there I can pick up that might make those rides more fun and have more context in it. But that's for another video entirely about how I actually somehow became a Disney adult through my partner. It was silly fun. It was nothing special. I'm almost scared to say it was probably like a 3.5 out of 5 for me. It was just a little silly movie and I enjoyed it. It's the pace is the biggest thing that stands out to me, that it's kind of so toned down in pace compared to modern contemporary movies that you really had to get your brain around it. Like I definitely had a moment where I had to really tell myself to settle into the pacing of that rather than being like so cut and fast pace of what we do movies now. So watching that led me to actually trying The Great Circle again, which I'm about 10 hours into. The intro being an exact copy of the first part in the first movie was brilliant. And since it was so fresh in my brain, I literally started the game like 2 hours I watched the movie. I kind of saw it beat for beat and what little things they tweaked and changed, like really small stuff, like when he slides under the stone gate, he pulls a hat and then a whip in the other. Just little slight differences. And just how much Troy Baker has been nailing like the old Harrison Ford voice has been really cool to see. But that game is a bit strange. That game is really good in some places and really odd in some other places. I thought it was great that the first 2 levels were paced as in what I would expect it to be. They were kind of shorter experiences, tighter, smaller levels that were like you have to get through this area and you can pick your way through it. A lot like how I think like a Deus Ex would be. There was an immersive sim quality to it that I really seem to enjoy. And then the Vatican level came, which I still haven't finished, and I've spent 6 hours in that level so far. I think in a lot of ways the game doesn't really prepare you to see that you're about to enter like this giant hub level with the way that like the subquests are like structured as field work, and then you have your main quest that you can go and just do. I quickly settled into doing all the side quest stuff just because it seemed like a really high production value. So I would assume that they would add to the main story as I go along. And plus, all the breadcrumbing that they use is very good for it. So then it's very easy to find your way through the level and do all the main quests and have them be all like scripted, cutscene, well thought out. Overall, I found doing all the side stuff really fun. It's just that I'm still doing the side stuff. A lot of the combat seems to be problems that I remember seeing in other games, like the stealth propagation of enemies. So, like when one enemy sees you and then it transfers to other enemies, how does that work? That stuff's kind of a bit wonky. I kind of went into this game and most stealth games, to be honest, thinking that you needed some kind of perfection. And then it's not until you start screwing up your stealth that you really kind of nail the like, oh, like this is how it works when I alert one guy. Guys around him go, or the whole room comes after me and it's on full alert mode. It seemed like the Great Circle was like a little bit in between the two. So sometimes I would take a guy out and it would play a big stinger, and my brain starts panicking about like what other things are going to come at me. But it turns out it was just the one. Or like it seems like the enemies need to alert or start an alarm for the room to come get you, or other people need to see you in order to propagate that. But the thing about all this propagation alert stealth stuff is that the moment you hide away from the enemies and you drop stealth, everybody forgets you completely. So the moment the alert stops and you walk in front of an enemy that just saw you, that was just chasing you a minute ago, that's when you kind of notice the like, oh, you guys stopped developing this part right here that you said this is good enough because this is indie. And in a way, on an indie way, I could see that that is just enough, because if it was just a movie, you just punch the guy out and you'd move on. And in a way, I really do like how forgiving that kind of stealth is, because then it becomes about dealing with scenarios one at a time in really compartmentalized ways. I don't think the game needed a big stealth system. And it's easy to recover from, and it's easy to get around the world and do what you want to and be a little cheeky Indiana Jones. But some parts of it, if you were hoping for a better stealth game, if you're hoping for more immersion in how like enemies remember you, especially at a time where other games like Kingdom Come Deliverance is like something that just like has so many systems in place for people to remember things, and like systems that the make the NPCs move in a certain way, it kind of changes how you view that game. That it's a back to basic simplicity, but I understand the problem with trying to integrate all this stuff. It's that maybe the game doesn't need it, and I kind of agree with that. I don't think the game really needs it. It was just kind of one of those like you had to experiment to really figure out where the borders are for the system in order to be able to stealth around properly. Otherwise, I think a lot of the choices in the game are really smart. I think the way that the systems come together are really smart. The way that the like money is scattered everywhere and you get stuff for that, that you have a camera to investigate things that then you can spend on like bonuses and stat skills and stuff. I like how all that comes together, because that allows the player to focus on the lore stuff. And the more they focus on the lore stuff, the more they get to increase their like their health pool, their stamina pool, how they punch, and what other things they got going on. It's really nice to see when a game takes its core gameplay loops and just folds it into the like progression system. So then a lot of times I would just end up with a lot of points and a lot of books that I picked up, and I would just be like, oh, I'll just buy all of them because I can. And it has little systems within itself to like award more exploration. So you can, within the Vatican level, a lady needs medicine bottles because she's short. So scattered throughout the entire level are medicine bottles that you can then trade to her for more upgrade books in order to do something. I thought that was pretty cool. And I think the vibe of all the cutscenes and the vibe that the way that everything is, it's really exactly the same as the movie I just watched, right? Which I think is really good for, I'm sure there's crazy amount of fans for Indiana Jones. So it's kind of nice to see that they kept that pacing. It literally would slot right into the movie. None the wiser. If it wasn't for the graphics, if the graphics looked more realistic, you would probably not be able to tell that this is kind of like a insert of a game in these cutscenes that they're showing. I literally just started this game because I had Game Pass and I didn't know it. I did want to play Avowed now and really eat my words on there, because the more I look at gameplay of that, the more I'm like, you know what? I think I might actually enjoy that if I'm okay with the limitations they had to deal with and the focus that they had to deal with. So I can't wait to try that. But for now, Indiana Jones has been a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it. It doesn't seem that long. There might be a moment where I need to beeline through the critical missions. But for now, it seems like a really fun experience. I really like stealth games, so that was the big appeal to me. I like an excuse to rummage around a level and pick stuff up that then adds to my progression later. That's been really cool. And just the cheesy, fun Indiana Jones blockbuster ride is also a really fun thing to do. So I mean, that's where I'm at for now. Just wanted to blab about Indiana Jones. If you enjoyed this at all, please subscribe to the channel. It really, really helps as a small time creator that's doing this at the start. And that's all I got today. Thank you so much. Have a good one.